There's a lot of talk in business about this idea of core values and hiring for core values. And to be honest, it's hard to figure out exactly where to start when it comes to finding people that are a core value fit and emphasizing and making those core values a real part of your business. And that's what I want to share with you today. So I have a story that I want to share. So this idea of a core value fit is talked about a lot. It's, one of those big kind of ideals in business that all the gurus talk about. But again, it's really hard to bring this idea of what a core value fit is in an employee and bring it down to earth in something that's really applicable. So a great example of this is, I'll tell you a story. So I was in Panama for an event recently, and I was with a group of entrepreneurs. And we were talking about just entrepreneur stuff. So raising a family and how to navigate work-life balance. And I shared, I have an email address that I set up for my daughters that I write emails to. And the idea is that I'll give this, access to this email, basically like a journal of letters that I've sent. And another entrepreneur kind of spoke up, and he was a father. And he said, yeah, I did a very similar thing. And I wanted to start writing letters to my kids. So he started telling this story about how he really wanted to write letters to his kids and mail them to them because they were a little bit older, I guess, out of the house. But he just didn't feel like doing it himself, and he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it himself. So he had his assistant write handwritten letters to his kids, pretending to be him, that he was mailing to his kids. And this was a really good example of somebody that didn't align with my core values. And I think it really emphasizes core values are not about what you do, but how you do it. It's not about the results that you can get, but it's about the method in which you go about achieving those results. And that is the embodiment of what a core value fit is. I sat in there like annoyed that this guy tried to resonate with me about this activity that I was doing for my kids, when what he was doing was nowhere near, in my opinion, as meaningful, because he had somebody else write fake letters from dad to connect with his kids. And that's just a value of mine, is that it was the effort behind what happened that made the impact. So how does this apply to your business? So the easiest way that I can summarize, like how to identify a core value behavior or fit for your gym, is what is the behavior that elicits the side eye of we don't do that here, right? So, if you see somebody performing a movement in your gym or treating a customer a certain way, what elicits kind of like a feeling of discomfort, because it's very commonly known that we don't treat people that way, or we don't do things that way. That's the feeling that you want to embody when you establish your core values. Now, a really perfect example of this, and one that I love in the industry, is Mike Boyle at Mike Boyle Strength Conditioning. And he's got a very, strong and concrete set of beliefs around the way you go about fitness. There's no bilateral squatting, there's no powerlifting, there's very limited barbell movements and things like that. So that's a very strong set of core values that are very concrete. So that if you walked into Mike Boyle's gym and you saw somebody doing barbell back squats, you'd probably hear the record screech in the gym, and everybody would kind of give that side eye feeling of hey, this is really weird because we really don't do that around here. And that is a symbol of their values that are so strongly embedded in their culture. The value of do no harm and, providing a really strong focus on true functional movement that doesn't, lead to long-term injury. So how can you apply this in your business? So I've told stories about creating core values. I'm not even going to touch on that right now because I have other episodes about that in the past. What I do want to talk more on is how to emphasize and make your values stick in your gym. So if you want to make your values, your core values, a lot more prominent among your team and even among your members as a business, there's a few things that you want to do. Number one is avoid doing things like putting them all over your walls and, putting them in writing everywhere around your business. Now, You might think that it's helpful to have it, and it can be, but in reality, you want it to be part of the language, not a part of the real estate. So the more it's just written on the walls, the less need there is to keep it as an intentional and conscious part of our language. So a really small tip, if it's all over your walls and in your office, sometimes it generates that idea of like banner blindness, and people just kind of like see it and they have no need to talk about it. It just falls into the background. You really want this to be an intentional and conscious thing, and also something that it forces people to remember it. If it's written on the walls, they're going to easily memorize it, but it's not going to be deeply embedded and have the impact and meaning that you might want it to. So avoid doing things like putting them on the walls and, giving people cue cards to memorize. You want them to understand the stories and the meaning and the true impact behind those values. Number 2, with embedding values into your culture, is establishing a really strong recognition and reward system that is used all throughout your business. So I've talked in the past about hiring and firing and reviewing your employees based on core values. But what's even more important is finding a way to elicit sharing and peer-to-peer recognition around those values. So there's a million systems like this these days, but we've used a system over the years called Bonusly. And it's a peer-to-peer point sharing system that integrates into our Slack, which is our communication channel. I'm sure it works with Microsoft Teams or Google or whatever else exists in the market. But basically the way it works is you would upload your core values. So we have 4 core values. You would upload those into the system. You would upload all of your employees into the system, and you would give them a user in Bonusly. So if I see Jen, who's a team member of mine, doing something above and beyond for a client, right? That's one of our core values called having strong Wi-Fi. And I would send her 20 points that is publicly recognized and shared across all of our Slack channels. So everybody can see, hey, I'm giving Jen 20 Bonusly points for having strong Wi-Fi by doing X, Y, and Z. And that's a way that we use a instant recognition system. So you can instantly recognize, you can make it public, and you can make it positive. So that's kind of the rules with recognition and rewards, is you want to make it instant, public, and positive. All right. So you can do that via, all these reward systems. But nothing's really going to be better than just a face-to-face high five or verbal recognition. But that's not always possible, especially when you're scaling a company and you're leading remote teams. So having a digital system is really effective. Where people make the mistake is they withhold recognition for maybe the next meeting or, the next touch point that they have scheduled. It's very meaningful when you can do it instantly and, publicly for everyone to see. And then on top of that, you want to create an incentive for people to share and want to receive those recognition points. So we have a system where every month we track how many Bonusly points have been given, as well as how many points have been received among the team. And that's one of the metrics that we actually use to award what we give as our Coach of the Quarter award, which gives them like a little bit of paid time off and some recognition, and we give them like a gift basket and stuff. So we use not only how many Bonusly points were received, but also how many Bonusly points were given. And if we see an employee that is not really engaged with giving or receiving Bonusly points, that's a pretty big red flag for the employee engagement overall. So we may, prompt them or talk to them and say like, hey, we don't see you giving many Bonusly points. That's also an indicator of how many you're going to receive, because people have a need for reciprocity. But that is one other element to making your core values stick, is to create this recognition and reward system that can be done positively, immediately, and publicly. Up next, and this is where a lot of people make the mistake with their core values, is make them measurable. So find a way to take this big idea of being a team player or working hard or doing the right thing and bring it down to the level in something that is very tangible, right? So we have grading systems. We use EOS. So the People Analyzer is a tool that measures, are you living the core values of our company? Yes or no, or, all the time, some of the time, not very often. And that's part of our review protocol. But sometimes you need to go even further with an actual concrete checklist of what it means to live these core values. And this is where I see a lot of people make mistakes. And we've made the mistake in the past too, where before we had this system, if we felt like somebody wasn't living the core values, Kaizen is one of them, for example. So Kaizen is the continuous growth and improvement and striving to always be better. All right. So we would kind of just say like, I don't think you're living the Kaizen value. And we didn't really have a way to really concretely measure it. Because somebody might say, well, I listen to podcasts every day on the way to work, and I don't think that that's a really strong behavior tied to having a Kaizen mentality. I don't think podcasts are the greatest vehicle for learning, but unless that's made explicit, then you're going to have people that interpret the values in a slightly different way. So we created a checklist where every core value has 5 different items that tell whether you are living up to those values or you're not. So our Kaizen value, for example, has things like, have you read a book in the last quarter? Have you attended a continuing education conference or seminar in the last year to pursue another layer of knowledge? Have you shared information or knowledge with another team member via Slack or with anybody else? These are concrete, measurable behaviors that show that when these are being done, this is a core value fit. And you would want to bring as many of your core values down to the ground level and create that for your people so that there is zero gray area on, whether you feel like they're a core value fit or not. Now, the last way that you can get your core values to be way more sticky and meaningful in your organization is to not only teach your core values, but to get your employees to teach the values to other employees. So you can do this in a variety of ways. We've done it on and off over the years. One of the things is in my organization, we want to give every single person the opportunity to learn and to teach. I think that's a really important aspect of employment, is giving our employees a chance to grow. And a huge part of growth is teaching others. So we will enlist our employees to teach something that aligns with our values to other team members, whether it's in a meeting or mentoring a new employee. But it really just gives a whole new sense of living these values when somebody has to prepare a presentation or prepare a story about these values and share it with somebody else. So if you are struggling with getting your core values to feel more real and tangible and seeing it, play out in the language of your team, try installing those 4 things, removing it off the walls, taking it away so that it forces them to remember them. Create your recognition and reward system so that they can reward instantly, positively, and publicly. Find ways to bring those big ideals and bring them down to the ground floor in a more measurable way, in a more concrete manner. And finally, enlist your team members to learn and also teach the core values to others through mentorship of new employees or through public presentations. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this content, make sure that you like and subscribe to get more of the content that you want to see about growing your fitness business. You can click any of the videos here to see other episodes, but I want to hear from you. So drop some comments into other content that you would like to see.